Welcome to the first edition of Investment Innovations in the Amazon Bioeconomy Forum. This is a initiative network and the Interstate Consortium Relief Amazon. Understand that Amazon biodiversity has essential elements for all the humanity to live better. Not only fauna and flora are important for health and regulation of the climate in the world, culture, arts, soils, waters, Amazon sustainable and living involves everything and everyone here. We need to conserve biodiversity, science and technology allied to sustainable development, having sight better conditions of living for everybody here. We want not only forests standing, but we want more standing forests, more biodiverse and sustainable, less social and territorial inequalities. To understand the Amazon bioeconomy and the economic and activities from this diverse biodiversity, a great ally to the sustainable development we seek. Why I invite you to participate in the investment innovations in the Amazon Bioeconomy Forum. I want to bring new voices to this debate, get to know different experiences and points of view, and to find synergies and ways for a more prosperous and resilient Amazon. These are talks for everybody who seek investment, seek options to invest, propose public policies, and everyone who wants to understand more about the bioeconomy in the Amazon. Shall we? Good morning. We're starting panel number 15 on the 2-week course on Amazon. I'm very happy to be here as moderator, commentator of the panel, participate in an extraordinary sequence of events, and want to, as we are reaching the end, we want to talk about fostering bioeconomy. Innovations has appeared in many panels, but this is very clear context of innovation bioeconomy context and has no doubt to be approached. 2 years ago, we did a study innovation bioeconomy. Summary of the study was to build the plans to the project. Isolated initiative is not the hardest. The hardest is structure an ecosystem in innovation. I like this study paired in 10 countries. There were no typical situations of Amazon, but there was Brazil. This is an interesting dialogue, and now we are here in this discussion. We have a few agents of this ecosystem which is being built here. When we prepared this panel survey of the existing networks and started trying to classify them, I have a slide that shows this. Maybe later we can look at it. Oh, there it is. The building exercise, but the exercise was to identify the networks and try to classify them to 4 quadrants according to their objective. We have today here part of the ecosystem and innovation in bioeconomy, 3 direct participants, PIA, PIEs, and Conexsus, which are participants of this network. And Vanderleia Radaelli, the specialist in policies and innovation and technologies, conclude our panel. Let's start with the introductions. Each panelist 15 minutes to tell their story and insert their story in this issue of the ecosystem and innovation in bioeconomy. And we have some guiding questions we'll discuss after the 4 presentations. I'd like to begin with Augusto from PPA, Partners for Amazon program, has a huge experience with social environmental causes, making relationship with great investors. One of the agents of this ecosystem. Will ask Augusto to tell us his story and to introduce PPA and his. Thank you, Vitor. Good morning, everyone. This is St. John's Day. It's very special for us here in Brazil. I'd like to first thank the consortium and the invitation honorable for us to be here with participants in this very important discussion. I would like to say hi to Maíra, Marysol, Vanderleia. Very interesting to be able to share this moment with you guys. I think we should talk about what is PPA. It's the acronym for Partners for Amazon. We are a collaborative platform. It's multi-sectorial and aim at working with the private sector to promote initiatives focused to the sustainable development of the Amazon. We've been created in the end of 2017, so it's kind of a new platform. It's first stages of maturing. It was born from a provocation from the American government, from the USAID, that came to the big leaderships in the Amazon and the private sector, provoked them to why not work together to have collaborative initiatives where we can reach a win-win environment, be able to share and amplify the impact in the Amazon territory. From this, supported local initiatives to activate this network, and we recognize several partnerships that we have. This incubation of PPA, where we reached our current status, where we have a kind of an independent management. Today, PPA has 42 members, multinationals, institutes, foundations, third sector organizations, and sectorial organizations. Work to foster the discussion, the exchange of experiences, the sharing of cases, so we can co-build possibilities of intervention in the territory, cause positive impact. Always through the lens of conservation of biodiversity, very important driver that USAID brings to us. For us, this is the key premise, the dealing of our works. The last 2 years, PPA has worked tirelessly to consolidate the value proposal. We have funneled our discussions to be able to reach a document, material that could show the way we want to act in this development, sustainable development of the Amazon. We want to strengthen the enterprises of impact in the territory. So we have developed with our partners what we call acceleration thesis of PPA. Support us in this endeavor. We count on with the Institute Quintessa has done very strong work for us to gather inputs to understand better how we want to act. Since the acceleration thesis, the material that we are building has a very clear objective, which is to potentialize the impact system in the Amazon through the strengthening of the chains and the players who are in the territory. Since we want to contribute to the conservation and generation of biodiversity in the forest, always looking through the lens of the filter for the local empowerment, community empowerment, having this business approach as a basic premise for our actions. As a result, we'd like to generate a business impact pipeline. We want to address the social environmental challenges of the Amazon and to attract investment not only from the PPA network but other players who could be interested in bring resources to the territory in the Amazon. This exercise we have been doing started with a very open consultation. We had almost 50 conversations, what we call value conversations, several actors from the ecosystem. Had interest in Conexsus and Ppa with the Entrepreneurship Center for the Amazon, Caeté Investments, Climate Ventures is a very important player here, and it's part of our network. in a way of externalizing our needs and gather contributions that could bring a more wide view our way. So we internalized these questions as well, and we did consultations with PPA members who have large experience in investments, not only the multinationals, but also with Wix and Valley Fund, Ambev. And we would like to, from this thesis of acceleration, show that this prevention view that is being built completely based on the importance of bioeconomy, have it as our main directive in the strengthening of this system in the Amazon. So the main umbrella of the acceleration thesis is bioeconomy. So our understanding of bioeconomy, in quotes here, is still being developed concept, but our understanding of bioeconomy is that these are the businesses that for its standing through economical alternatives and raw materials that are extracted from the Amazon biodiversity. Scope, we identify all three other sub-themes. We look at it's interesting to support regenerative or restoration systems, agroforest systems, integration with crops and forests, production of technology, seeds, planting in general, and something that is very expensive for us with the relationship that we have with the North American government. And this policy that is about climate policy, carbon and climate is something very significant for us. We work with clean energy and energy efficiency, residues, reverse logistics, sanitation, etc. And another driver that composes the arrangement of ours supports the sustainable development chains. We're talking about the environmental support in the agro cattle industry, traceability in logistics, and increasing productivity. Looking at this more general aspect, guide us, we have identified some possibilities of action for PPA. Support of the PPA is always a catalyzing support. We'll never implement a specific project, but we will seek with financiers and implementers, impact institutions to leverage projects that are ongoing. So PPA will always act supporting projects that develop impact businesses which are existing or need improvement. Within the possibilities that we find in this bioeconomy umbrella, we understand that PPA can foster this entrepreneur culture, acceleration programs for impact programs that are in its initial stages, more incipient, that need some traction to reach the maturing level that which would be more interesting. We also look at programs of business acceleration that are more mature. I think if we can do a very interesting parallel here with mass program that has been incubated at PPA and has reached a relevance status that is very interesting. We also look at acceleration programs that look directly to restoration or regeneration of biodiversity in the Amazon. In respecting diversity in the several Amazons we have within the Amazon, PPA can also foment local entrepreneurs, community businesses. The Conexsus Fund, very interesting situation because we are supporting credit with technical assistance with 25 ventures in the territory. It's a series of possibilities that compose the general ecosystem of impact in the Amazon. PPA as a network seeks to position itself strategically to foster all these manifestations, all these possibilities. The next steps, going back to the initial speech that we are still young and being developed, we consolidate our support strategy with these situations. We want to put not only at the disposal this financial support, but we also want to create a type of certification. We want to look at all the ecosystem if we don't get resources from the PPA. We want to show projects that are being built or are being run by partner organizations also need some highlight. We can bring learning for all the ecosystem, all the people who have concern with the sustainable development in the Amazon. So if you want to talk about it more in a more concrete way, two programs that are very dear for PPA that are very relevant. First is MAS. In PPA, it is an independent program, but it arose inside PPA with the name Ppa Acceleration Program, and today fostered 30 different impact businesses in the Amazon, all of them with innovation biases, and it made possible for this business to reach another level of development. A great case that we have here is Manioc. They developed institutionally up to the point to get international resources. Few million reais in this business, so this business was able to reach even more interesting levels of development with the products that are extracted from the Amazon. Another project that is very important for us, the collective loan program. This is a platform where people can donate, so not donations, investments, smaller ticket. They will have their return in the medium term, democratizing the access to the impact investments, which is more on the scope of investment funds. EA supports this project from this Amazon round. We're going to the second round now. It should be made available the next 2 weeks. We selected 4 businesses. All of them capillarized through the territory. We have businesses at Acre, Amapá, Tocantins, which were made possible. Me, you, everybody who's watching, make direct investments in impact business in the Amazon. The goal is very high this year. We understand that is derived from the maturing of the program. We seek to invest 2021 around 3 million reais. It's gaining momentum and it's very interesting. I'd like to finish my speech here. Some of the bioeconomy by PPA, and I would like to tell you that this is still maturing. We are always talking and looking for opportunities to learn within our network. Reach the conclusion that we have way more and more concrete, consolidated. Support has been a solution that is most intelligent and strategic for us to reach sustainable development. Thank you for the space and time, and I'm available for the questions again. Thank you, Augusto. A very interesting elements for discuss the perspective with the guiding questions. Today I took a look around the websites, and when I looked at PPA, it was there highlighted about the forum and the panel. Very nice to see. Let's save this dynamics for the Ppa, this recent 4-year story, I tried to complement it with Maíra's view. She participates in the Conexsus network, which is sustainable connections. She has experience with innovation and fostering partnerships. She currently coordinates the innovation front at Conexus. So I'd like to hear about you, Maíra. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you, and I thank on behalf of Conexus for participating in this panel. If you help me to share the presentation there. Next slide, please. Talking a little bit about how we work and about Conexus. We are an organization of the Society of Public Ppa, and our birth certificate, Conexus name, was already there to symbolize the connection, working networks in collaboration. We have this in our ID. We're born in 2018. As Ppa, we are also a young organization in constant learning and have the mission of activating the ecosystem of community business, social environmental impact to generate income, conserve forests and biomes. In our values, we have innovation marked in our hearts. So innovation is in our commitment, together with valuation of social biodiversity, participation and cooperation, and entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. Telling you about the areas that Conexus, where Conexus acts, work at modeling of business, access to the market, and impact finances. 2021, we introduced a new nucleus of topics here, which is the entrepreneurship and innovation. All of our action axes, we are working all the Brazilian biomes, and we have most part of our projects in the Amazon. Next slide, please. Our mission in the innovation and entrepreneurship axis is to work in networks, cooperation and not competition. We believe strongly that work for that, guide ourselves by active listening of the people and collective learning, especially the people who are in the front. There's a providing of services network, and innovation for us is in the dialogue between the different links of the chain. Connect social innovation with technological innovation, and especially in social innovation, because as we say, it's a collaboration network. Make it real through experimentation and practice our innovation projects. Here, talking a little bit about our networks and how we act ecosystem of support to community businesses, work with science and technology institutes, companies, public sector, startups, small and medium, service providers, other partners wants to collaborate more and more, work activating and strengthening this ecosystem from end to end, work with businesses, but we also worked with bringing the other links from the middle companies and benefiters and raw materials providers and services reach these companies. Work a lot with building of local capacities, training in business communities, and with commercialization centers for us to help them to structure sales channels and promotion of initiatives for local entrepreneurship. Next slide. So, what Salo showed here in this event, with the study that he did, warning, very important for us that the world market of forest products is worth today around $176 billion. And the Brazilian participation is less than 0.2%. This is alarming data, and also data that pushes us to think and work on innovation. How can we foster, strengthen? Because there is future and present opportunities in the Amazon. A lot that has been done that could be reused, potentialized. Just don't need just to invent and reinvent new projects, but also to all the knowledge that has been studied, all the networks that are in potentializing others. So talking about how we act in the innovation area, I have three projects that we have here. First project is partnership IDB Lab and Amazon 4.0 to add value to the Conexsus and the cocoa to the Amazon through 4.0 technology, and us at Conexsus work on strengthening this business ecosystem, which is local project, and strengthen the businesses and fostering products and service with more added value.
Because today most of the community-based products are sold in naturally, and this project is going to contribute to this. It will bring more value to the chain and a good contribution for that. The second project is in partnership with the Euroclimate and GIZ and Search Foundation. We are going to use an innovative methodology that we can act directly with the communities. Because many times in the acceleration programs, in innovation programs, are from outside to the inside. And in the project, we want to work with the communities, with the cooperatives and the associations and the community-based projects, because more than them, they know the challenges that they have, the problems that needs to be solved, and they innovate. So this project is for us to strengthen this and build in a collective way this project for innovation from the problems and challenges that they have in the end. So another project that they have partnership with Senai and with Good Energies and KUA, it's a project that we want to bring the links of the industry in the innovation all along with the end of the chain, all the links of the chain. So we are designing challenges for the Amazon. We have an indication that we are going to work in the state of Rondônia for challenges of the region and for the local communities. And here, lastly, is our lenses, our spectacles. So how are we looking more closely in the area of innovation that we want to support more and more the social environmental impact business, the small and middle-sized business? Augusto mentioned Manioca, and Manioca was one of the partners of Conexsus. We worked to strengthen Manioca, and we want to map and bring more companies for these sectors, and also to foster the collaboration networks with big companies. I don't know if we can make this provocation now, but we can leave to the end to think about the provocations in the end of our panel. That it's important to think about the big size companies sector. There are many companies that want to work in the Amazon. Everything wants a fund to call them on their own. But when we put these companies on the table for them to foster products and services in the Amazon region, so not always, not all of them are committed to this. What products your company is going to buy? What services your company can support and service? And lastly, we are looking at the spectacles, especially in the Senai and others that we are going to start working. It's the integration of technologies and innovation and science throughout the whole step of the processes of services and products from the Amazon. So thank you very much for your attention and see you in a few minutes. Thank you very much, Maíra. I think that this is becoming richer and more complex, adding to what Augusto presented and Maíra from Conexus. Then we are going to enrich the discussion. Now, I was going to say a terrible word, so let's put five, but let's feed the discussion and enrich the discussion. It would be a terrible reference here. So now I have the pleasure to invite Marysol Góes. She's an expert in innovation, new economies, and currently she's a catalyst of the Green Economy Hub and the Bioeconomy of the Amazon. So she has a vast experience, and I think she's going to add here interesting complementarily with the vision that has been developed. So Marysol, it's a pleasure to have you here. You have the floor. Thank you very much, Zé Vitor. Thank you very much, everyone. I want to thank for the invitation and the agreement for the Amazon. It is a great pleasure to be here with colleagues that somehow will strengthen some arrangements and bringing these ideas. I'm the catalyst of the green economy of the biomas, and I'm going to present here very briefly my presentation about the hub. But I believe that it's important to bring our projects and our concerts and a brief contextualization of what guides our services and in fact our services and the green economy hub is an initiative, is a local initiative that converges many different organizations, and I believe that the Amazon is the world. It's not a homogeneous world. As obvious as this is, we need to bring this to our field. As Augusto brought here, there are many different Amazons inside the Amazon. So we are working with many different Amazons, so we have to talk about the urban and the rural Amazon. When we think about fostering lines to strengthen the Amazon economy, it's important to know that this has to be integrated. This has to look very broadly, as Maíra brought here the spectacles, the lenses, so we can look at this diversity. We have to understand that we are trying to converge different crises, not only from the ecological tipping point, as it is mentioned, but convergences of crises from many different ideas. The sanitary field, in the environmental field, in social, monetary. It's important to remember that Amazon is closer to countries with high immigration flow. So maybe not always noticed, but we have to consider everything that involves this region. It's important to understand this diversity. It's important to understand that in spite of being the greatest community social biodiversity and the best hydro basin in the world, in the 4 states with the highest death rate from COVID, unfortunately, 3 of them are in the Amazon. I think this reflects the challenges of the region. If we analyze the Human Development Indexes, 10 municipalities present index that are devastating for the region. So we need to bring, and I believe that a forum of this magnitude that aims at investigating and develop financial mechanisms that are innovative, we have these responsibilities as a transformation agent to understand this diversity, to understand this magnitude. And these are problems with exponential dimensions, not only the climate crisis, but there are different dimensions of crisis. And for that, we need, as Augusto brought, this approach that is collaborative. Because if we stop to think, there is no way how to address exponential problems with old tools that are linear. That is not going to solve the problems. So when we talk about collaboration network, we are thinking about the alternative in the ecosystem, because we are talking about problems, and COVID has shown us with many different convergences among the countries and convergences among states. Whenever you have private sector, civil society with international cooperation, and even the pandemics has shown us the importance of a network world. We operate as a network itself. As also Maíra brought this look at the collaboration instead of competition and scarcity in the relationships. So this is what we bring that has been guiding our hub. That is this look of combining all the tools with the technologies that is important in innovation as we know it, but also bringing this high touch collaboration. It's a mixture between high tech and high touch. This is based on the futuristic Laladine handling to address exponential and complex problems. And we have this ecosystem that is growing more and more, especially in the last 5 years. Very quickly here, we were mapping some of the initiatives that arose in the economic group for the agreement for the Amazon, but some of them are very old, and we can see how promising it is, how thriving it is, this ecosystem that is generating research, that is generating acceleration programs, academia, and everything that is involved in this scenario, public policies to incentivize innovation in the national level that starts to see the regional chunk from the climate ventures, so we can get closer to find innovations with the region inside the Amazon region. And we know that all the challenges that are extremely big and unfortunately, in spite of promising, bioeconomy represents only 8% of the GDP of the region. And we perceive that this challenge, that this is part of something that is taking all its dimensions. And we have to look at these dimensions from the human capital's perspective. Nobody finds a definition, but as Augusto also brought, without expecting to understand that it is a field under construction, given all this cross trans, cross-channelity, but a discussion that has been guiding us is the Amazon bioeconomy of the forest-based for the productive chains of social biodiversity, but with the added value because of the rural exit, because sometimes it's not very measured. That is the link in the end of the chain. Maíra brought the importance of bringing solutions that are Amazon solutions for the Amazon. Understand that there are solutions that are already ongoing in the region.
They can in fact flourish and stronger. Sometimes we are trying to foster bioeconomy. We have to look at the basic question. Meaning, in the base of the chain, we want to create an ecosystem of inclusive bioeconomy, not to be a limping economy. To look at the other end as well, we have to look at the basis, structure. So when we are dealing with the Amazon, is looking at the riverside community, structuring productive chains with the look towards the end of the chain. Study presented by Sue formed the amount of investment on in the idealization phase of the chain. You have the opportunity to try and test. You have to try to create inclusive ecosystem. Innovation does not exist without inclusion and diversity. So we could end up just reproducing other ecosystems. I come from the ecosystem from the southeast, and it does not fit the reality of the forest. We have to bring this look that is really direct towards the Amazon, creating possible ways for interaction, coalitions. Important for us to get what already exists. Mentioning Maíra, stop reinventing wheels. As actors in the ecosystem, how can we actually not reinvent wheels? We have to use our already ongoing. Talk about the hub, born with this premise of building inclusive innovation. Going back to our timeline, from initial tratative started on 2018, Green Economy Coalition, International Institute for Environment and Development, and the Sustainable Foundation for the Amazon had our global launch in the Amazon Day event, had our national launch event called Amazon is Too Big to Collapse, and in regional level had our launch together with players and partners, Pan-Amazonic institutions. Is built on 3 layers. Hub is not BIFAS, but Secretariat by local scope, work with solutions for the Amazon, with the existing programs, Sustainable Amazon Foundation, and partnership with solutions sustainable development by the UN, Green Economy Coalition at the local class and capillarity, SDSN, not go very deep, but an Amazonic network should sustainable development. I can make this presentation available and available at the YouTube so you can access in more detailed level. About the Green Economy Coalition, a hub that has these three spheres: local action, regional, and global. Focus is to address and strengthen bioeconomy in the region. Our strategy is done in 4 axes. Systemic 4 axes have the creation of data on bioeconomy, training of human capital, have been researches and studies, courses, focus on bioeconomy in Amazon, capillarity and local knowledge coming from PAS and ASN. Second axis have the connections that have Amazon bioeconomy level, coordinate Amazon bioeconomy group, focusing development plan, focus nation of human capital, create this new mentality of economy, have this public policies front. Very good that we have Vanderleia here, bringing this look, importance of structure. There's no use for us to have the knowledge and connections if we have no instrument, mechanisms in public policies that are consistent. And finally, we have this innovative financial mechanism front on for bioeconomy. As an approach, focus the community developing this mechanism focused on microcredit, social credit, as this already developing productive chain. I'll stop here. I know that you guys are expecting me to finish. This is our book brought it saying that they recent initiative. We are only 7 months old, so maybe we are in our incubation phase. It has some years of experience. We are a very recent initiative, and we are at its disposal, and we're very open. We are launching next days our volunteer program for research onto their doctorate or master's research and want to get structured with us, because we have been doing a lot of things in these topics. So we'll also make it available in our presentations on YouTube. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Marysol. Perfect. Thank you. Very interesting aspect, but infants of the three experiences go very far from some of the ones that were in that initial slide. Are not making presentations or telling their stories here. I believe we have this reflection very enriched with Vanderleia Radaelli's economist. She has a doctorate in with I now find out that orientator that is a colleague of mine. I would like to invite Vanderleia. She works at in a science, technology, mission-oriented projects have an interesting relationship to put this set of discussions innovation ecosystem for the Amazon bioeconomy. You have the floor. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you, Vitor. Everyone who is watching us, very interesting discussion. Start my panel. Marysol, my head was thinking about alterations in what I intended to, because so we could have this space to talk about fostering networks and bioeconomies fundamental, especially in the moment that we're living in. Also, take a chance to thank for the invitation and congratulate the organization for the event, especially Tatiana and the team. Have these rich discussions brought by all the event with all the organizers this past weeks. Have an online event. Seems kind of simple, but it's very challenging. Congratulations on putting together these very rich discussions in very high level. Thank you. Congratulations. As I said, I'll improvise a little bit because the line of thinking, because of the three succeeding presentations that have brought very rich elements. So I'll structure my presentation around 4 main points. First one is a common point. You have to think what was the common element from all the panels in these past 2 weeks. Definitely has been the importance of innovation. Not only as health, networks, startups, and companies, but as a mechanism of creation of value to private optics, but social optics as well. For me, of all the presentations I was able to watch, the only or the better investment in the combination of factors of capital and work that allows to extract results from the same factor of productive value in the forests and having impact in economic development and increasing productivity and the impact on people's lives in riverside communities who are the end of the chain and many times are completely disconnected from these types of conversations. The first key for the challenges, the point of view of public policies, of the incorporation of the complete cycle of the actors that somehow get the consequences and the effects of these policies. Second element is about COVID. Of all the negative effects that we have on our lives, but it helped to unshroud a lot of the certainties that we had on productive certainty. Global change and the idea or the excuse many times many policymakers gave that the rich countries invest in research and development and innovation because they are rich, almost as a hobby. So we have other emergencies. They invest because they are rich. We attack our emergencies that are typical of Latin American economies and all other countries that have intermediary economies.
When we watch the UNESCO indicators about innovation or the indicators of OECD, even in the crisis, the advanced countries continue to invest in innovation and they have accelerated. Not only they continued, but they also implemented. Going in the opposite direction, or we were in the opposite direction in many countries in Latin America, especially Brazil, where the investment in innovation are reducing. The FinTech is here to show all the indicators of a drop change, sudden drop, the opposite direction of the world is doing. But many times these resources are powdered without missions. So why the rich countries invest in innovation? First, because innovation is understood as a public asset, the sense that the investment in innovation generates externalities in the economy, provoke secondary effects that is going to benefit the society. Not many countries in the region, the first attitude is to eliminate innovation secretaries, to reduce budgets of ministries of innovation. So there is a mismatch, a disconnection between what the society understands, the reflex that society feels with innovation. In the developed countries, this is not a priority of the state. We, in general, we have seen that many countries in the region is to cut expenses, and the expenses is through innovation. So this is a danger to the effects of recovery of this crisis that are part of the capitalist system. Another private aspect is that the social benefits that are reached with innovation, they exceed the private benefits. So when a company decides to invest in innovation to develop a vaccine, for example, all the society and the other competitors also benefit from this, with this discovery. Many routes of complementary knowledge is benefit from this. So the fact that we are celebrating the fact that for the first time in history we could develop a vaccine less than 1 year, that means that there were for many decades knowledge that was accumulated and deliberately made investment to prepare their scientific and technological knowledge to react fast. So the governments of developed countries invest in innovation because the capacity of absorption is generated in the companies and in the people. For the bioeconomy topic, this is key because the knowledge of the company and the people, talent is a key element, especially the global talent when we talk about bioeconomy. Another element that I think it's important to highlight, especially in the crisis, are some narratives related to the role of the state. The less the states in the economy, the better. Or the only role of the state is to correct the economy failures, only acting in the allocation of assets and services, and to leave the private sector to find the best solutions, the best technology, the best public policies. Throughout time, I think we have to be very careful so that doesn't crystallize in our consciousness. To look at the state as something slow bureaucrats of people with bad moods and people who don't worry about the neighbor, people who want to get rich illegally or they are not creative and everything. I think the role that Professor Mariana Muscato has done in the last years defending the idea that the states not only corrects the market failures, but also allows to create and establish mission-based policies to create the market. If we look at the European countries, they define cancer as mission. The cancer disease is the cancer that kills the most the Europeans, so it's our policy, our mission to eliminate cancer in some decades. And why did they do that? Because around cancer, there are at least 200 other diseases. So by establishing a specific ambitious goal related to the ambition of the society, you establish alternative routes so all the scientific and technological knowledge can go to this direction and find other solutions to be developed the halfway. So my third point has to do with the private sector. Makes the innovation is the private sector. This has a logic that sometimes the innovation policies of the region, those who want to innovate are not the main role. Those who innovate are the companies. They have the curiosity. I think everybody talks about Schumpeter, the creative curiosity to go beyond the competition to achieve profits, increasing the market symmetry. So the private sector has a fundamental role in the development and the dissemination and the use of technology and the knowledge. But as Marysol mentioned, public policies is structuring in the sense of stimulating the activities in the company. That's a way to share risks, for example, in the productive process. But they do not do this alone. This interaction, or a word that Marysol mentioned here, this collaboration and not competition between the players is key because it has to be an integrated process between the private and the public sector and all the knowledge generators. So this systemic and integrated view, these are the words that Marisol mentioned and I agree completely. My fourth and final point, and what about the innovation and bioeconomy ecosystems? What is the dynamics of the ecosystems? What are the flows? How do we transfer technical knowledge and financial knowledge between players in the system? In which levels? Is top down or not? Or it comes from the bottom to the up? How do these elements take place? Vitor, in his introduction, presented a slide of the networks of this ecosystem in the Amazon. I think that an interesting exercise would be after these networks that are very young, how do we take a second slide adding where the government is in, where are the big companies, what is the role of the startups, the research centers, the venture capital, the other financing mechanisms, takes the intellectual property, who is the body that is in charge of facilitating the intellectual property, what is the role of the research and development centers, the licensing, the qualified personnel, and the global education people that comes to the Amazon without taking the wealth, but they are part in a long-term process. How is the knowledge flow between the providers and the distribution chains? So my point here is to reflect a little bit. That is the most important in the ecosystem. It's not the individual performance of one of those players, but it is the gear among them, or the collaboration, not the competition, as Maíra brought in the beginning of her speech. There is no way how to be successful and create externalities without this integration if we do not have a common strategy or a mission-guided policy. When we look at the structure of innovation of Brazil in general, but especially in the Amazon, because of the specificities of this region, we can find important gaps, both upstream and downstream of the ecosystem chain. It is a very young ecosystem, but in the previous stage, in the early steps, I think we all have elements to state that we lack the mission statements in the universities and in the research center. There is a scarcity of reasonability research agenda that are not connected with the local challenges. As fundamentally the local challenges of the Amazons, even though they are specific, they are also global or regional, since there are borders with other companies, other countries. We also lack spaces and opportunities for cooperation, for open cooperation, including with the private sector. There is a document from the OECD from 2002 that is very interesting. To me, it is the best document of OECD about the mechanisms of interaction between the academic sector and the companies. There is a picture of an iceberg. When we think about the interaction between university and company, we only think about the tip of the iceberg. But below the iceberg, beneath the water, there are many instruments that allow to approach the university, the company, to allow the implementation of common processes that we sometimes ignore. We do not do this. I don't know what reason, for what reason. I think we have a challenge in the early stages of this the chain. We have to reflect on the new realities of the world. I leave a hint, a tip of a book in case you're interested, that is called The Decoder, that tells the story of Jennifer Donovan, that the revolution that she made with the genome research in the laboratory from the university and the challenge with the companies in partnership with the private sector. So I leave this with you. It is a woman. It's not every day that we write a biography of a woman with a picture in the cover. So about the startups in the ecosystem of the Amazon, we have to start a process of demystifying the startups and the unicorns in general. In our studies, IDB with our colleagues from the Big Lab, we have the following diagnosis. Let's see if it makes sense or not. The access to patient capital for entrepreneur education and the structuring of new businesses is a permanent necessity. And who does that? Part of public sector and part of private sector. Who gives the injection, by definition, is the public sector. So here there is room for us to think in the highest volume of patient resources, the resource that does not want return tomorrow. It is a long-term investment with a focus and a goal. The early stages is an integration between the distinct capacities. And I think this panel with this network that was shown here that is very young has to benefit from the delays of joining these capacities to strengthen and give more muscle, and especially to a gap that I think it is the main one, along with the financial resources, the patient capital is the talent. I think we lack qualification of the teams in our local studies. We saw that we lack vision, an education that is able to look at what the world is doing and put this in practice. I think we have room to improve the talents and to educate talents, to attract and retain these talents for the bioeconomy. This is essential for because of the characteristics of the bioeconomy. I think that we have a lot of opportunities to qualify intermediaries, and in our evaluations, it is very scarce the user-centered initiatives. We do have copy and paste initiatives of what people are doing in other countries. Marysol mentions the solutions of Faria Lima that cannot be transformed, transported to the Amazon. And the opposite is also true. Now going to the end of my speech, I want to recover the point that some of my colleagues mentioned about the definition of bioeconomy. Bioeconomy involves many risks. I think that we always talk about bioeconomy, but we don't detail about what bioeconomy is, and we run the risk of transforming into a buzzword. And this is very dangerous because you move away or you dilute the responsibilities inside the innovation policies of the players. So I think that regardless if the industry is primary or productive chain, the legal stability and its long and short-term strategies are essential so we don't lose this opportunity again. Unfortunately, we missed some opportunities. We cannot have the risk of missing others. So despite all the interpretations and the concept of bioeconomy, I think we have more than 30 definitions of bioeconomy, all of them diverge in one word, in one semantics. To me, there is no bioeconomy, there is no generation of positive externalities in bioeconomy if there are no investment in technology and innovation in the longer run with permanent resources, with a focus. There is no science, technology, and innovation and bioeconomy separate. They have to be together. And the definitions of the roles and responsibilities and a holistic view on all the networks, the relationships, and the knowledge flows is fundamental so we do not fall in other missed opportunities with bioeconomy where there are sophisticated people in developed countries investing and working with more political happiness than what we are doing. So I leave this challenge so we can debate. And I hope that my insights can inspire new rounds of questions. Thank you very much once again, and sorry that I ran over my time here.
Thank you, Vanderleia. Let's try to organize our discussion. We have some questions here. Somehow you already did comment on the previous presentation I would like to hear Augusto, Maíra, and Marysol reacting to topics. I'm reading the decoder as actually started last week. This is spectacular. I'm part of a group that with some colleagues created 9 to 10 years ago, study group on bioeconomy from Federal University of. And one of our difficulties dealing with innovation, and a link which I insist is with innovation. These weeks have been very intensive event-wise. I participated in a webinar yesterday that relevant bioeconomy without innovation doesn't exist. All the forums, all the panels in among these forums, they all go to innovation in the end. For us to start the debate, I'd like to hear from Augusto and Marysol from Vanderleia's presentation, then I'll go back to her question for us to discuss with you guys. Our networks, creating networks, are very interesting, very rich, very excited here, but they're very young as well. They were created because it was timely, there were gaps to fill. Augusto said that I would like to means it means it's an effort that is being done, has its obstacles. Maybe I'm still learning how to do. So what are we have that initial slide? Certainly know most of them that were mentioned here. Few of you, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the initiative? Observe in this what is good and what is less good in the ecosystem. The recent creation shows that you saw things, necessities existing. First, I would like to say that the provocations Vanderleia brought are absolutely pertinent. They show the moment these networks are in, are all new. Challenges present themselves because they need to be solved. The solution is not given by anyone. What we're trying is try to innovate, trying to bring answers, good address different situations and different expectations from different elements in the network. We're trying to do collaborative actions, different stages, proposals. We have to admit the different in line of visions, tension, and this way we can promote a dialogue where we can extract more values. Doing the sandwich sandwich feedback, I'll start from the weakness or delicate parts exist in difficult us attributing shared value for everybody who is in the group. There's distinct visions to reach a common denominator seems fundamental but also complex. Today with this different and this polarization becomes even more complicated. When we were talking about the Amazon, I'll never forget that one of our advisors said that we have dialogued several companies, most of them come from international scope. Have you talked to people who are in there in the Amazon, local entrepreneur? In fact, entrepreneur, we talk. What about the owner of the shoe store? bakery, daily things, their view is not the same from our perspective. Construct this dialogue, the complexity of this conversation is our greatest weakness. On the other hand, looking at the strengths, we are in a crisis moment, and it's crisis moment the greatest opportunities arise. The Amazon itself has been the focus, looks from concern both in the national and international levels. This has opportunities of individual and collective actions, the window of opportunity that should be taken advantage of. Another strength, I believe, is this network we are building in Conexsus that has a work that is closer to the field, with PPA talking with big companies, and the concertação itself that has a whole nother level of dialogue that is more inspiring, maybe. What we have seen in all these networks that there is a lot of good people that are willing to talk, invest their time, their energy, the resources and connections for an objective that is still not clear for everyone, but that it starts to become less foggy. I understand that as these are young initiatives, process now is of the funneling, creation of maturity in the next years, maybe the answers to the questions that Vanderleia brings us here. Thank you, Augusto. Just for us to be able to release Vanderleia as promised at 12 o'clock. So I'll ask her a question, and the line that Augusto said about the strength and network as young networks, how do you see it? So ask you to keep it in around 2 or 3 minutes. Have time to think. Maíra, would you like to start? I go together with Augusto what he said, and I also enjoyed Vanderleia's speech very much. The challenge of the dialogue and reaching common objectives that are close to each other, very complex. But as young as initiatives are, there's also a lot of work that has been done in the Amazon. Many studies, works, partners. Looking at what has been done is very important for the management of knowledge. Said not to reinvent the wheel because this helps make ways and times shorter for innovation. Another important issue is how, as we work more of a network type of work in this ecosystem in the Amazon, potentializing projects and activities, not overlapping projects. Are there many repeated projects? This is the question. Could we try to work with knowledge management? What is lacking here? What is already there? Many financiers and investors don't talk to each other. So it's a project here, an activity there. There are many things are repeated. Couldn't we potentialize with other projects this investment? What is lacking actually? Reflection here. So I think that's it. It's about thinking about the synergies and lapping, about repeating, and also thinking about the non-usual players or the players that are not in the innovation ecosystem that could be, should be. I think that's it for now. Thank you, Maíra, Augusto. I think they laid the ground for me to correct in my 2 minutes here. My perspective, last 3 years working in the forest floor with Paz and supporting other organizations. In the case of the Amazon, more is better. More initiatives acting better. We have an exponential challenge here. We have a very ambitious goal that we reverse this scenario where new economic alternatives become actually the alternative for these end of the chain communities recognize that they can survive this way. And in my understanding, navigating interiors, especially of the state of Amazonas, I understand that more is better. What I see is less good is that the ecosystem still lives in bubbles. We have a very basic systematic problem that is a narrative problem. When we go to a interior community, they don't recognize themselves as impact businesses. They ask, what is startup? Sometimes the barrier of entry is in the call, is in the notice. The notice of our institutions are more inclusive. They understand the people who are in the chain. So we have to look at the inclusive bioeconomy, something we bring here, and what Augusto said in his. But for us, it's very dear this issue of the inclusive bioeconomy, because in the forest floor, you have to understand that the Amazon is not forest itself, but there are people living there, and millions. We have to create ways to understand that the entrepreneur is not only the target audience, but they are protagonists system in the Amazon. Sometimes innovation in the Amazon, you to have a canoe and install a motor and goes to another level. That old lady that selling and son was climbing the tree, and if she buys a blender, it will aggregate value there. All these, you have to think about the processing plant to sell and export, but we also have to think of these people. And so I will provoke the ecosystem if I do that and look at innovative ecosystems from other regions. They also exclude narrative. We have to look at things as an individual, as a protagonist, player of innovation, as a proposer of their own solutions as well. I've, I've gone over a minute here. Yes, your message is set here. Now we have the referee showing how much added time we'll have. I'm sorry, Vanderleia. I would like to chance to comment what Marysol and Maíra and Augusto did. Would like to talk about one bioeconomy as a mission. Are the 3 points what a summary that should be there? Discussion is kind of outlined, but I'd like to analyze this as between quotes, representing Mazzucato? How will we organize bioeconomy? Because there are statistics frequently saw that 176 billion Amazon product, but Brazilian participation is 0.2%. I think this is underestimated because it works with products that we know of. Actually, the space for products is extraordinary, not only in Amazon, but for bioeconomy, Brazil, and other biomes, other systems that are more structured, other challenges.
So I would like to ask for your final words and thank your contribution. And let's steal a few of your minutes here. So you have the floor now. Well, it's too pretentious. I have worked with Mariana Matsukato here. We made a study with Mexico, Chile, and Colombia exactly to understand and analyze the institutional capabilities to implement mission-guided, mission-oriented initiatives. And the study of Mexico is already available in the website of the bank, and Chile and Colombia is in the final step, and it will be available soon. I wanted to divide this in two. Mission-oriented policies, according to what Mariana Matsukato had worked on how to define, select these missions, because they have to be linked to a great challenge. So she always defends five main aspects. First one is to be bold, ambitious, and inspiring in order to have social relevance. Even for the old lady that is in the end, as Maíra and Marysol highlighted. So this full connection from end to end. The second is to provide a clear and specific direction with measurements and a determined evaluation. It is not eternally 20, 30, or 50 years, whatever, with intermediate steps of measurement and evaluation, not only to penalize the mistake, but also to incorporate the spirit of the startup is the fast corrected the fast. We have to correct this perfection. The third has to do with ambition throughout time in order to provide research and innovation actions to be realistic. So we cannot aspire to change a scenario in a short time. This is not how it works. So this would be the third. The fourth, this is one of the challenges and one of the weaknesses, is the interdisciplinarity and intersectoriality in order to allow the innovation between different players to be in small boxes or departments or in a closed logic. It doesn't make sense for decades. So this holistic view of innovation, if you are interested and look at all the patents, registrations in the United States and Europe, there was a patents of a green technology. If in a Sunday you are in the pandemics in your house, well, let's look at the construction of a patent. There are at least 30 different knowledge in only one patent. So this is the logic. Thinking that no one solves anything alone, even in the academia or in the company with research and development lab. And finally, is to conduct and think about multiple solutions from the base. I think that was a common point that my colleagues also reflected. So if we, the second part, we have to structure, understand better the strengths. I know that there are many studies about the Amazon, but in the end of the day, when we really want to organize the information, and I say that because I was the client and I needed this information, we don't have it. We have a lot of information, but they are not systematized. So I don't know how to say what are the main strengths of the bidding notice that were launched by the public and the private, and what was generated and where can I continue from. because the tendency is to duplicate. So it's time and resource and more of the same, but things should be more evolved. So the organization of the data is key. We can have a lot of criticism to the United States, but there is something that they do. They organize information. We have a lot to learn from them. And organizing information, we can like it or not, but the information is there, and from this information, we allow it to work. The second element is to map the strengths of the scientific and technological knowledge of the universities and also the weaknesses of these research centers. We need to have this mapping to leave available for the ecosystem. So from this, we can strengthen what needs to be strengthened and consolidate and expand what is not built. And finally, the funding agents. We cannot enter bioeconomy if we do not have a structure of finance that allows give distinct knowledge and capabilities a space to work and a space to create and to co-create and collaborate and create relevant products not only from the economic perspective but especially from the social perspective that responds to challenges that are typical from the Amazon. I think these are the main points. What has to do with my talk about mission guided policies is institutional capacity. We have to strengthen the actors, the public or private, but because of my work and because of my faith, I intend to strengthen the public bodies so they can be empowered, technically capable, and autonomous in their technical decisions and with resource, because there's no use to have a person who knows it all but cannot move things away. So forward. So we have to empower with resources and technical capacity to think and plan in the long term. Because a good element that everyone has and strength that Amazons have that there are good people there. Very good and very dedicated and very committed people. And without people, we are not nothing. So an important asset that the ecosystem already has is people. So it's easier to work when we have committed people. That's it. I have to leave now. I apologize. Thank you very much. I will be available for everyone who is listening to us for future conversations. And because this is so inspiring that we can spend the whole day talking about this. So thank you again and see you later. Thank you very much, Vanderleia. I think that this topic, bioeconomy, I think I can spend the whole day talking about this. But the Amazon bioeconomy is even greater because it's a recent contact. I will participate in the working group and the agreement has been an extraordinary learning because I was totally ignorant in the topic because of the little experience. But looking at you and looking at this discussion, I want to thank on behalf of the forum your presence and your participation. And just to mention that supported by Caetano Pena that you might know, yes, he worked with me. The people from the ministry, they have tried to make an exercise of bioeconomy, or mission-oriented project for bioeconomy. So I think this is a discussion that we already have people thinking and reflecting about that. So this last message of the existence of good people, interested and capable people, and this is how we do things. Sometimes we are not happy with the governments, and sometimes when we reach a certain secretary or a ministry, you find some people or a lot of people who have a lot of quality, a lot of capacity. I can see here dealing with the people in the Secretary of Science and Technology of the Amazon, and I see that in many ministries, and I think this is rewarding. I think we have to be optimistic. If we are not optimistic, you're dead. So that's it. So thank you very much, Vanderleia, and see you next time. Next time we can continue this conversation. Thank you. People in general just need opportunities to contribute. So when we create these instances of opportunities, usually the result is better. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have to leave. See you later. Okay, so we still have a few minutes to talk among ourselves. There are some questions that came through the chat rooms. Let me tell you, we had a very interesting discussion. Now I'll give more time to Marysol and Maíra so we can talk more about this. But a question that came up here is that you started talking about this is let's make the inverted rounds and we start with Marysol, then Maíra and Augusto. Building ecosystem also means finding synergies. You talked about that. You, this is directed to the three networks, with this comprehensive view, do we try to connect technology that can deliver a value proposition that is more complete? What would you say about that? Thank you, Vitor. I think it is a great question. The issue of integration of technologies, of high technology with the social cultural technology and creative technology that exists in the Amazon. I think this is the point that Vanderleia brought from the gap that we have in terms of innovation and institutions from the academia to reach in the end in the communities. So I understand that the value proposition is connected with the experience and with the local needs of these communities that live in the region. So I understand that we need a starting point, the human capital formation. This is urgent. And a human capital that is adhering to the reality of schools, as there are some initiatives of institutions with this book directed to the development related to the riverside communities, and I always bring this look directed to the actions that the Pfizer has been doing. Pfizer has a strong school-oriented look for the riverside education and development of local capacities, and I think this is a starting point. This is an essential point. Otherwise, we are going to continue, and I always reinforce that we are going to continue producing an exclusion of the ecosystem. And the ventures that will be accelerated will be from a circuit or uh, territorial variation that is very big. So we need to have this variety of many players that are aiming at a common objective or a shared view to strengthen the forest economy, the standing forest economy, but they also have strategies that are specific and directed to their missions and roles. So I see that the ecosystem can have this shared view with initiatives that might be competing in understanding that they are doing a service that is very similar between them, but it is necessary. If we look at dimensions, there are many conservation units that needs to be affected. So many times the ecosystem ends up directing you to a non-territorial diversity and cannot cover and reach all the dimension that the Amazon has. So I see that a crucial starting point is the issue of education. So there's no way out of this. I hope I have contributed. Maíra, value, the more complete value proposition with the cooperation of the ecosystem. I'm here reflecting on the questions. Now you're going to Ask another question, right? Okay, the same question. Building ecosystem also means find synergies. So with this comprehensive view that you presented, seek to connect technologies that can deliver a more complete value proposition. It is a very interesting question that I'm still reflecting on. I don't know if I know the answers, but it is very interesting because I was thinking here the questions about connections of technologies and especially the connections of people. So when I think about technology, I think about the heavy technology, the existing technology, and the social technologies. Existing and the created ones that are the dynamic end to end, the Amazon network.
But thinking about this, go back to what I talked about the basis knowledge. I think that to accelerate and to move bioeconomy agile way, so many things have been created and created. I also think about this construction of with already existing technologies that could be adapted to the Amazon reality. We have a lot of technologies there. How can we decrease the mileage on the way with what already exists, adapting, recreating from end to end, and technologies not be adapted, created, but I would like to focus on the point what already exists can be adapted. Let's think about logistics challenges. There are so many technologies, networks. Could these networks be adapted to context? Many couldn't, but many could. Other challenges, good practices, issues, storage, innovation, they are there. They or could not be adapted or created. Think about this mileage of the way. These innovations that are already ongoing that they could use in these connections. This is my line of thinking. Decrease the number of reinvention and focus on what we can reuse. Very interesting. I think I would just make a compliment on what my colleague said. When we talk about synergy, I think we limit a little bit the strength of a network. Network doing two things. One is learning, possibility of making mistakes and getting things right together and sharing these. The second is inspiration. My experience in our acceleration strategy, all strategies that are formidable, daring, and we inspired ourselves in them and saw that it worked for us. Did the same with the JBS fund. The strength of the network is there to sharing not only strategies but collective growth, collaboration. Very good. The question I have here next to unfold the same how to create a structured process of collaboration of these networks are ongoing. Co-create plan and created bioeconomy in Brazil. What would next step be action? There are results in our discussion, but any more from the other panels that have happened in this past 2. So let's invert order. Maíra, could you start the next step? It's a very simple step, but complex to implement. Establish and agreement, the network, station, have concrete actions. Let's foster and strengthen bioeconomy, Amazon region. How will each organization to establish commitment short and medium term and to monitor the actions? Have to get our hands dirty, pressing that. Can't wait. I think that's it. What do you think? Next step after lunch, obviously. Let's eat a lot of manioc and acai. I recommend to learn that phenomenal. People who don't eat meat, this is a perfect substitute. We have a challenge here. It involves all the network. Maíra's work and Marysol, everybody's. Structuring something that is adherent to all and also in the long term, get closer with the public opinion. Our dialogue here, our reflection, still only a small part of society have to overflow to all the other levels of society. It has to happen in a more democratic way. I think Vanderleia has a very interesting point here that when we strengthen the public institutions for them to be resilient to changes in power, public opinion, population has to see it as a priority, and in this way to pressure on bodies to apply public policies in this sense. Challenge for together here, mobilizing public opinion. What about you, Marysol? Talks about establishing long term and that has mentioned as about of the incidence of public policies very and has been mentioned forum about a national plan for bioeconomy. I've seen countries that have advanced obviously in different scenarios and contexts. Germany and other Europe working in bioeconomy see the importance when this is taken to a structural level. Talking about bioeconomy, talking about a new mentality, a new economy, way of operating, arrangement. It needs consistent structures. As Augusto said, cannot depend on the public sector to stand as an organized civil society, as Vanderleia mentioned, but also understanding that is cannot admit anymore for us to have changes every couple of years. Need 2 years to implement, and then we are thinking about re-election, so we have no continuity. This continuity is fatal. See the at the subnational level, have an interstate consortium, as Maíra brought the issue of commitment. Tomorrow we will launch the Green Recovery Plan. Have mapped Carlos Seguro as a consultant for us to understand if we are having really green recovery in the state of the Amazon, state of Amazonas, and see and really spread this and make it democratic, supportive way, so we are not niched, and the green economy reach the scale of whole society for us to go out of our teams and focus on this topic and to really enter society, reach the forest floor or the floor, urban cities, great centers. This is very important. Institutional strengthening. Us as players have to somehow aim that. With this great articulation with the private sector, several institutions, collaboration networks, wise also with a political non-party approach in Amazon. So how we are able to scale it together is the answer. Put it very good. Have a couple of minutes more. Goes up talking about how economy we could be here all day. The Amazon even more. I'd like to explore for you. I have two questions. One, what are the ways to strengthen bioeconomy in the Amazon? What fundamental players should be involved? Overflowing ecosystem, the network itself, what should be mentioned there? Just to recognize the contribution of hence the question for us to close up and guys to say your goodbyes later in next forum. Push the please. It's a simple answer. All the actors, all the players, from community activist bases, Amazon 4.0 with Professor Carlos Nobre, other extreme, have to look at all the chain, generate learning and synergy. From this, we'll grow collectively. Basis is here are fundamental. Highlight the learning, and I have my thanks here to everybody's effort. This has been a great conversation. I hope we can follow up with context and meet again in the professional ways with a thinking synergy that is very clear. We're talking about discussing bioeconomy in Amazon. Why not invest in Amazon bioeconomy? I'll go back to my initial statement. Collective go on platform will be open again next week. You can pre-enroll and in a more active way promote innovation, bioeconomy, magnificent territory that is the Amazon. Thank you. Next opportunity. Thank you, Augusto, on behalf of the forum. Maíra, I go with what my fellow Augusto Vanderleia, the raft around the planet. Who are the players? We are planet's dwellers. Important the Amazon, all of us. So I have a question here for us to reflect as people. How many of us really know the Amazon? How many of us have had the opportunity of trying products from Amazon, so Unity, the Amazon, talking more of a heart thing, be able to work with bioeconomy. We have to establish the love of the Amazon, different stages, act, commitment, all the players, us as dwellers of this country, companies, the public sector, community, calling for the heart, love, region, and the importance it has on our lives. So I would like to poke the company. I think we should work with multi-sectorial collaboration of companies. Why can't competing companies work in a collaborative way to foster products and services on Amazon? Why don't they share services? Dream, imagine a collective. Understand that could be considered innocent, naive, but I dream of this. First, to strengthen bioeconomy in the Amazon, collaborative and not in competition. But we have to share certain buy from chains that respect the productive chains in a fair way, to pay fairly, construct these values with the community. This is my final statement. I'd like to meet Augusto, Maíra, Vanderleia, and everyone for us to create creation environment, imagine a possible future that is better for the Amazon and for our planet.
Okay, what about you, Marisol? Well, I think I can finish saying that the road to the future is not the past. And when we talk about a new economy, we are talking about a new mindset, a new way to operate, a way to survive and live in society. And I agree completely with Maíra that the future is collective. That there's no only a way back. No way we can come back. So the pandemic showed us post COVID already shows us a scenario, shows this interdependence, this systemic necessity, not only about the Amazon but the nature as a whole. We have to put the nature in the center of the economy and politics. And other countries have been dialoguing about this topic in many projects, this mainstream nature and decision making, that somehow we have to bring the natural capital to the decision making process in the Amazon. And we hope to have a lot of conversations and so we can call them and to instigate not only the audience but those who can follow this recording in the future and can participate after June and July in these dialogues that will be open. And with reference the green economy recovery reference and another invitation is that the next Tuesday we are going to have a conversation of from 4:30 to 6 o'clock about the private sector, the private capital, the dynamization of the bioeconomy in the Amazon. So this is part of the study that we are working with the humanized projects about the financial flows. I think Vanderleia brought this necessity as the international Inter-American Development Bank, and we are doing this with partnerships with Green Forests. And in order to reach this mapping on how many flows and about new financing mechanisms, hybrid financing, blended philanthropy, and all the mechanisms that are emerging, and understanding the chains that are benefiting most, and creating a map that both the requesters and those who need these resources can understand this map. So we have to look at both ends, the impact investors and also the entrepreneur at the end. So we hope to generate value for the ecosystems and other studies that unfortunately we couldn't detail here because of the time that we have been developing the hub, but we hope to make them public and to make the call that our volunteer program for everyone who wants to join us, to join the initiative and know the working groups that are being formed for this collective action can be potentialized by of the recent. So I want to thank you, Vitor, and the working group represented by Tatiana Shore and Inaye and Carol and Mariana and many others and other people that actively participated in the organization of the forum. So thank you very much and see you next time. Okay, Marysol, we have to close now. We ran out of time now. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope that this panel could have brought many ideas and points that we will have to develop and feed ourselves agreement in the future. So I want to thank for your participation, Augusto, Maíra, and Marysol, and Vanderleia. And I close this panel now. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good afternoon.